In this video, we will look at how the arbitral tribunals have interpreted the right to regulate or the regulatory power of the host state. As we've discussed earlier, there are various ways in which the regulatory power can be asserted in the BITs, and also in most of the cases the BITs do not contain an explicit provision asserting the regulatory right of the host state. So how did the arbitral tribunals look at this? We've discussed earlier with regard to Philip Morris versus Uruguay, where even in the absence of an explicit provision, the tribunals have given due weightage to the regulatory right of the host state. Two other examples that we can discuss in the context of NAFTA are Thunderbird versus Mexico, ST Myers versus Canada. In both the cases, we could see that the tribunal had emphasized on the regulatory right of the host state. For instance, in Thunderbird versus Mexico, the tribunal stated that Mexico has a wider regulatory space, especially in the context of gambling industry. Even in ST Myers versus Canada, the tribunal has stated that the Canada again has a wider regulatory power and it could exercise a regulatory power in a way that it wants in furtherance of a public interest. However, we see that there are some tribunals that put restriction on the exercise of regulatory power of the host state as well. One instance that comes to my mind is ADC versus Hungary. In ADC versus Hungary, what the tribunal had explicitly stated in the award is that it said that true, there is a sovereign power of a country to take regulatory measures. However, the sovereign power, the right to take regulatory measures is not unlimited. So this was mentioned by the tribunal in the award, saying that it is not unlimited and that the country should be mindful of the fact that it had undertaken commitments in a bilateral investment treaty and that it should honor the promises that it had made in a bilateral investment treaty and cannot hide behind the fact that the regulatory measure was enacted for public purpose. So we had seen both versions where the tribunal, even in the absence of explicit provision like in NAFTA, has given emphasis to the regulatory power of the host state, and some tribunals have sort of focused more on the fact that sovereign power to take regulatory measures cannot be used widely. So like in ADC versus Hungary. So we've seen both the extremes. But what we generally see is what the tribunals try and do is that they try and balance the investor's interest with that of the regulatory power of the host state. We can discuss some of the instances where this has been done. Take for instance Parker Rings versus Lithuania. If you look at the ratio of this particular tribunal, Parker Ring tribunals, we could see that the tribunal has sort of focused on the undeniable right and privilege of the host state to take regulatory measures. One, that was mentioned, and two, the tribunal also stated that a host state can enact, modify or terminate any law if at all it unless and until it had not promised that it won't do so in the form of a stabilization clause. Stabilization clause generally refers to a provision in a BIT which freezes the legal framework that was in place at the time of entering into treaty as it is, right? So here the Parker Rings tribunal said that unless there is stabilization clause, the state generally has a right to enact, modify or cancel a law. At the same time, if you see that the tribunal also stated that the investor should know that the laws evolve over time and therefore the regulatory power of the state could be asserted except in case if the state act unfairly, unreasonably or inequitably while exercising its legislative power. So what we can see here is the tribunal has tried to balance the investor's interest with that of the host state interest, where it acknowledged the regulatory right of the host state, but it said that that cannot be exercised in an unfair way. One is that. If you look at another case, Take Saluka versus Czech Republic. In Saluka versus Czech Republic, even in this case also, the tribunal said that there could be, the investor cannot presume that the circumstances that prevail at the time of investment will remain totally unchanged. So therefore, if the foreign investors' expectations were justified and reasonable, then the same that could be frustrated if the host state has a legitimate right to regulate domestic matters in the public interest. So here also we could see that the tribunal had tried to undertake a balancing exercise where it balanced the investor's right versus the host state's right. But we can see a bit more elaboration on this particular point from the Lemur Tribunal. So if we look at the case Lemur versus Ukraine, we can see that the tribunal sort of tried to spell out the scope of the regulatory right of the host state. So what here the tribunal had stated was, the tribunal said that while reviewing the regulatory measure of the host state, it cannot be examined only from the perspective of protecting investors' right. The tribunal stated that the measure, the adverse effect on the investment should be balanced and other factors should be considered. What are the other factors that the tribunal laid down in this context? Where first, the tribunal said that the state has a sovereign right to enact any legislation or to adopt any decision in furtherance of public interest. And secondly, we can balance that with the legitimate expectations of the investor, and also we can balance that with the investor's duty to perform an investigation before making the decision to invest, and also the investor's conduct in the host country. So this is one tribunal which had spelled out different or list out different things that had to be considered while reviewing the regulatory measure of the host state. So from the different provisions of the BIT and from the different decisions of the tribunals, what we see here is, or we can arrive at this conclusion, that the state has a right to regulate foreign investment made in its territory, and such a right is not unlimited, and the limitation of this right could be relating to the nature of the measure, or it could relate to defining the public policy objectives, or it could relate to non-discriminatory or non-arbitrary character of the measure. So thus there are various things that are looked at by the arbitral tribunal while reviewing the regulatory measure of the host state. Why do we have to look at the limitation that is placed on exercise of sovereign right of the host state, especially while enacting regulatory measures? This is because in case if the arbitral tribunal holds that measure to be a legitimate regulatory exercise of host state's power, then there is no need to pay compensation to the investor. And that is why the investors have to show that the measure was an expropriatory measure. Only then the investor can claim compensation. If we look at the provision or the jurisprudence with regard to expropriation, we know there are different kinds of expropriation, and the provision against expropriation has been discussed in detail in the earlier videos as well. But to give a quick recap, there could be direct expropriation or there could be indirect expropriation. In either case of expropriation, payment of compensation is essential. Only that in case of an indirect expropriation, the quantum of compensation is much higher. And the quantum of compensation has always been a contesting point. In pre-BIT eras, this was the contest between capital exporting countries and capital importing countries. At one point in time, capital exporting countries did acknowledge the right of expropriation for public purpose by the host state, but then they questioned the quantum of compensation and they demanded compensation as per Hull's formula. that is prompt, adequate and effective compensation, whereas the capital importing countries were asserting that the compensation will be determined as per the laws of their own laws, domestic laws. Now, when there always been a contest for compensation, now even in the BIT era, so there is compensation that the host state has agreed to pay in case of direct expropriation, and in case of an indirect expropriation, the host state will have to pay a higher quantum of compensation. When a legitimate regulatory measure gets challenged, the question that the arbitral tribunal looks at is whether the measure was a legitimate regulatory measure or whether it was an indirect expropriation. I mean, in 1960s, 70s and 80s, we could see that there were many instances of direct expropriation. However, we don't see many direct expropriation these days because the countries are also mindful of their reputation. They want to preserve their reputation as an investment friendly nation, and that their country is an appropriate or a suitable destination for flow of FDI. So in that case, when there is a decline in the instance of direct expropriation, most of the expropriation claims are decided in the context of whether the measure is indirect expropriation or not. As we'd already seen that the expropriation provision is mostly drafted in a broad way. Equivalent to expropriation or tantamount to expropriation is reviewed by the arbitral tribunals or interpreted by the arbitral tribunals, wherein they look at the regulatory measures and take a call if it is expropriation or not. If we look at ST Myers Tribunal, ST Myers versus Canada, in that case the tribunal stated that to distinguish between expropriation and regulation, we can look at the deprivation. So, the ST Myers Tribunal stated that in case it is expropriation if there is substantial deprivation, if there is deprivation of the ownership of the investment, but it is regulation if there is a lesser interference. This dicta by ST Myers Tribunal may not be true in all cases. There may be cases where the permit may be refused or may be denied to run an enterprise which was invested by a foreign investor, and that could be a regulatory measure, but that could lead to the erosion of the full value of the investment itself. So, therefore, only the intensity of the interference by the state government or by the state may not be helpful in deciding this question. This was exactly acknowledged by the tribunal in Feldman versus Mexico. In that case, the tribunal stated that there is no clear line distinguishing expropriation and regulation, but Feldman tribunal also acknowledged that government should be free to act or free to enact or free to take any regulatory measure for public purpose, including for the protection of environment, public health, for enacting or modifying tax laws, for granting or withdrawing subsidies. So, the government should be in a position to freely undertake these measures. At the same time, if any adverse economic consequence on the investment is challenged as the regulatory measure as an expropriatory measure, then the government will not be in a position to freely undertake these measures. So, that was clearly laid down by the Feldman Tribunal as well. So, one thing is very sure, to determine the question whether something is an whether the regulatory measure is an expropriation or not, the compensation that flows from this question also plays a very significant role, because if the arbitral tribunals holds a measure to be expropriatory measure, then compensation had to be paid. But if the arbitral tribunals holds it to be a legitimate regulatory measure, then the compensation need not be paid. So, it becomes a very important question for the investor as well as for the host state, that how does an arbitral tribunal looks at it. If we look at the Telenar case, the Telenar tribunal had sort of given a summary of the previous cases where tantamount to expropriation was held to be there. See, if you if you give a quick glance to these previously decided cases and look at the nature of the measure, we can easily know that some of the measure which were held to be expropriatory measure are regulatory measures of the host state. So, thus there is a possibility for a regulatory measure of the host state to be held as an expropriatory measure, and then the consequence of compensation entails, or to be held as a legitimate regulatory measure as well. And given the fact that the monetary compensation that are awarded in ISTS are very substantial, this question is essentially very important and significant to many developing countries. And since developing countries and least developed countries are also actively taking part in attracting FDIs, foreign direct investments, so this is something, a very pertinent examination or a pertinent question that had to be discussed. So, since the arbitral tribunal, there is differences in the way that the arbitral tribunal looks at this question or answers this question, it becomes very pertinent for us also to examine what are the approaches that the arbitral tribunal undertakes in order to answer this question. So, in the next 3 videos, we are going to discuss the 3 approaches that the arbitral tribunal primarily undertakes to answer the question if a measure is an expropriatory measure or if it is a legitimate regulatory measure.